Picture this, a parade of tuxedos, mega yachts, endless champagne, and carefully choreographed standing ovations rolling through the French Riviera. This is the Cannes Film Festival. A few years back, a documentary called Seduced and Abandoned captured two filmmakers wandering through this exact champagne-soaked reality, desperately trying to raise money for a movie. And in doing so, they completely exposed the less-than-shiny machinery humming underneath all that projected glamour. Meetings that just dissolve into lunches, lunches that turn into cocktails, and vague promises from people speaking a bizarre, almost entirely made-up dialect of entertainment financing. It's a world built on literally nothing but confidence, timing, and sheer theater. But here is the central contradiction of that world. Cannes is an empire built entirely on fake myths, seduction, and truth-stretching fantasies, right? Yet, oddly enough, the entertainment industry actually feels like the most honest system we currently have. So, how on earth can an industry that's literally built on illusion be considered honest? Well, it's because everybody performs, and everybody knows it. Cinema openly acknowledges that myth-making sits right at the very center of its business model. The actors, the directors, the producers, the investors, they are all performing. But because they don't pretend otherwise, it actually creates a completely honest emotional contract with the audience. Nobody walks into a cinema, or the Cannes Film Festival for that matter, believing they are entering a monastery of pure truth. We know we're being seduced. And that mutual understanding, that's exactly what makes it honest. Section 1. Language far from human. So if the film industry is an honest illusion, let's contrast that with the institutional environments surrounding us today. On one side, you have filmmakers who openly sell emotion. On the other, you have executives and politicians who attempt to sell certainty, but they do it covertly, through these heavily scrubbed PR statements that sound completely devoid of actual human life. Just think about that classic LinkedIn post announcing layoffs that somehow tries to rebrand human tragedy as a transformational reinvestment with exciting opportunities ahead. You know the ones. It's polished, it's legally cleared, and it is entirely emotionally dead. And just consider the supreme irony of Cannes Lions, the advertising cousin to the film festival. Every single year, massive industries arrive on that very same French Riviera to celebrate, quote, authentic human connection. Yet they speak in this emotionally padded dialect that no actual human being would ever use voluntarily. Seriously, nobody goes home and tells their family, hey, we remain committed to stakeholder-centric transformation initiatives. The system is performing authenticity, but communicating in a way that is just utterly synthetic. Section 2. The Midnight Splitscreen. This brings us to a really specific, relatable tension of everyday executive life. The stark, uncomfortable contrast between our public personas and our private realities. Think about it. On stage, under the bright lights, everybody speaks in this dialect of polished certainty. Everything is optimized, everything is strategic. But off stage, usually around midnight at the hotel bar, after the fatigue has finally dissolved all that media training, the jargon just drops. People suddenly speak like actual human beings again. They talk about their real doubts, their actual fears, and the profound, messy contradictions of their jobs. Which raises a highly provocative question. If we humans are perfectly capable of sounding human in private, why do our institutions sound so emotionally synthetic, over-lawyered, and terrified in public? It's like modern institutional language has become emotionally uninhabitable. It's overmanaged, over-sanitized, and completely flattened by a sheer terror of backlash. Instead of sounding truthful, everything just sounds approved. Section 3, a truth aversion problem. Now here is where the intellectual shift really happens. We are not actually talking about a language problem or a bad PR issue here. We are talking about deep institutional fear. The truth is, people are actually remarkably tolerant of being manipulated. I mean, we've been manipulated for thousands of years by advertising and politics. But what audiences absolutely despise is emotional fraudulence. When you give people polished statements with zero substance, or these perfectly structured sentences with absolutely zero humanity, they feel that emotional lie immediately. They just know. Think about the sheer absurdity of our current reality for a second. We are living through the most communication-saturated period in human history. We've got podcasts, global platforms, direct access to audiences right in our pockets. And yet somehow, trust is collapsing almost everywhere. Why? Because language isn't being used to foster connection anymore. It's being used defensively. It is specifically designed to protect power and avoid risk, rather than to actually reveal any sort of truth. As the saying goes, authenticity isn't a brand platform, it's a risk you're willing to take. Most companies completely misdiagnose their collapsing trust as a marketing issue, so they hire expensive consultants to do firefighting. But firefighting only treats the symptoms. Rebuilding real trust requires the genuine, highly uncomfortable risk of aligning your language with messy, lived reality. It literally requires stepping away from the heavily drafted Hollywood script when you aren't actually making a movie. Section 4. The human requirement. So, what does all of this mean for anyone trying to navigate this modern ecosystem? Well, here is the reality check. The public is actively outsourcing emotional truth away from institutions. We are turning to podcasters, comedians, YouTubers, and independent conversationalists. And it's not necessarily because these creators are factually perfect, but simply because they sound recognizably alive. Once an institution loses that emotional contract with its audience, once the public decides your words are just synthetic risk management, that trust is exponentially harder to ever win back. Because in a world built on noise, defensive PR, and endless performative nonsense, humans do not connect through scrubbed perfection. We only connect with what is recognizably human. So I want you to look at the systems you operate in, your company, your career, the way you communicate day to day. Are you trapped in a collapsing system of fake narratives? And maybe more importantly, is there anyone left in that system who is recognizably human?